Good morning. It's good to see you out here today on this beautiful, beautiful day. And I know that the mayor and Councilman Stewart talked about the meaning of Juneteenth. Several years ago, we attempted to have a big thing at the West Side Community Center for Juneteenth. We had a pretty good turnout. But as Councilman Stewart has mentioned, it hadn't got where it should be. Now it's getting to be very important because of all the things happening in our community and across this nation. We're looking now at what are the things that black folk have brought to this nation. And Juneteenth celebrates this because in Texas, a lot of folk didn't know the slaves had been freed. And they found it out. So there's a big thing out in that area about Juneteenth. But here in Anderson, we started now, and Linda, I hope this is going to grow. I think there's several things going on today, right here in this area about the Juneteenth celebration. But I was asked to talk about some things happening in Anderson, and of course, Councilman Stewart talked about the South Side. Well, I want to talk about all sides. I didn't grow up in the city of Anderson. I grew up out near the Hardwood Lake when it was called the Seneca River. Anybody remember that? You all young folk out here still don't remember much of that. But that's where I grew up. Moved to Anderson and married a city boy, Harry Thompson. And of course we have 3 sons. But when I came to Anderson, there were a lot of things going on. And one thing that really touched me was a little girl on the east side of town was caught up in the drug activity and died. And that just broke my heart, because at that time I was a teacher at the West Side High School. Well, I said, really something should be done about this. So I went to council, talked to Mayor Wright, and said, can't we do something? We formed a committee and started saying, how can we meet together to talk about what can be done in this city to help everybody. Got a little interested and decided I was going to run for city council. Didn't even know much about it, but I was elected in 1976 as the first African American to serve on Anderson City Council. And I began to work then to things that should be done. I was asked today to talk about a little bit about Church Street. How many people out here know anything about Church Street? Oh, good. I do see some people in the audience who know a lot about it. In fact, Miss Wardlaw, one of my students, she was very involved with Church Street. Now, Church Street was started back in the early 1900s when a few black entrepreneurs had their little businesses downtown on Main Street. It grew, and later on they were given the property behind my Main Street where we grew up, and of course a lot of black people began to start their little businesses. But from the 1907 until 1980 approximately, over 100 businesses, black businesses, was formed in Church Street. There were all kind of businesses there. Barber shops. Mrs. Stewart mentioned funeral homes. There were several funeral homes started right on Church Street that still exist now. For instance, Johnson's Funeral Home came out of Church Street. There were department stores, restaurants. My husband had a little snack shop on Church Street. So many things happened, and it was wonderful. Now, the big thing that I like about Church Street, and we had an opening later on, was that it didn't have a merchants association like downtown. It was a family thing. The merchants on Church Street helped each other. It was like a family. If you had a shoe shop, needed help. You had a restaurant that needed help. Then, of course, you worked together. And it was very, very good because people came from all over, particularly black folk who lived in Belton, Honey Path, or whatever. On Saturday, which is a big day on Church Street, everybody came to town. And where did they go to shop? On Church Street. Because downtown, you could not go in all the stores and be recognized. Those were the days of the colored water fountains. Many other things you could not get from downtown, but you go to Church Street, you were recognized and respected, you were served, so everybody liked to go to Church Street. When I was elected to council in 1976, what had happened, the council had voted to tear down the buildings that had become very dilapidated. Many of the owners had gotten older, their businesses had gone down, so the buildings were torn down and the people who actually were still there were relocated. Now some took their little businesses other places, like down on West Church Street. Others just said, I'm tired, I'm gonna give it up. So there we stood, there was a beautiful area that was once entrepreneurs' black businesses, now had become a parking lot. So I thought that maybe we ought to do something to recognize these entrepreneurs. We began to work to say, what can we do now to let people know that Church Street was an integral part of Anderson, South Carolina. We worked with the community for many, many years to actually build what is now the West Side Church Street Heritage Park. How many of you seen the park? Not enough people now. I'm ashamed of you because we worked, I guess, 15 or 20 years, Mayor Francis, trying to get this park built, and it's now beautiful. But some of the interesting things that were happening, we have what's it called, story boxes. What's the history of Church Street? We had people to come in and add to so many things, but when I see Mary Frances sitting out there, this is our book. We open up, and this is Church Street. What was once was a dilapidated old parking lot is now a beautiful park right across the street here. And we talk about Juneteenth, but locally we need to talk about what Church Street means to us as black people. So we have the history in the park. And I want all of you at some point to go back here, back to Blackley Inn where it is, and look at what's there for that little park. There are story boxes of people who had businesses, and Frances, come up here. She worked so hard with all of us, the mayor. We worked to provide places for people to go. And in this little booklet here, I don't have many copies, but she has something in this little book that talked about the food. And her brother, who had a restaurant, say something about that, dear Francis.
I was a part of Church Street growing up. My brother ran a restaurant, and he was friends with John Fred across the street. He was the one that got him started up in the restaurant business. At that time, you could get meat and 3 vegetables for 38 cents. And I do have some copies of some of the business that was on Church Street. I thought we were going to have a table outside, but I have some on the inside. And somebody had their T-bone steak advertised for 79 cents, but it was TEA bone steak. But Church Street was a part of where blacks really had to go. No place else. All the time no offense, but all the time we saw a white person on there was when they was patrolling through Church Street, mostly on Saturday. And they told me, she said, Saturday was people coming into town from Alva and the surrounding areas, and it was on a bus line called Cook's Bus Line. And people would come there in the restaurant and hang out there until the bus got ready to go. And also, if they went out and bought anything, they always stored in the back of my brother's restaurant, where nobody bothered your stuff or anything. But it was a prosperity place for blacks to come and get into their businesses. Yeah, we had fights and all over up there on Church Street. And some people today say, "Ooh, I wouldn't have gone to Church Street." That was a good place to go. And
Okay, but she,
Oh. Step back. A little more. Feedback from the speakers. That's why everybody can hear you. Even a little more. Okay.
can you hear better now? Okay. You know, I could talk all day about Church Street. What I'm most proud of is what we have there now. There's a big sign that says, "We were here." And that reminds us of all those black businessmen. You know, now I tell young folk, I want to see you start a business downtown. You need to get your business started downtown in some of those vacant stores. Because these black entrepreneurs, they didn't have a lot of money. They had heart. They want to do something. They put together, as I mentioned, over 100 businesses during the time they were there. So we tried to recapture that in this park. Is talk about the history of Church Street. Now I recognize that today is all about Juneteenth nationally, but I'm talking about Church Street locally, right here. So please make a point at some time, just walk through. You got benches, you got story boxes that tells you about who were here. There's only one, as I remember, black person still alive who had a business there, and that's Mr. Johnson. He was a barber. Napoleon Johnson. He's still alive. Of course, he's older now. He's in a wheelchair. But I think he's the only one left who had a business on Church Street.
Miss Tucker.
And Miss Tucker, yes. Okay, Miss Tucker. So we're proud of that. And I just want to, I wish I had all these things to give to you, but I don't. But Mary Frances said she has some information that you'd be interested in. So let's give all those wonderful Church Street entrepreneurs a big hand. It means a whole lot to Anderson community.